respected Dr. Tinku Pali ma'am as the moderator of this meeting. So, ma'am notes no introduction. So, ma'am is a senior consultant and the vitreoretina specialist at Department of Ophthalmology, Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. And she is a professor in Gangaram Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research and the head of Vitreoretina Services, Delhi Eye Center. With this, I request respected Dr. Tinku Bali ma'am to please start the proceedings of the meeting.
So thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be moderating this evening's academic discussions. And on behalf of BEAR, I very warmly welcome you all to today's webinar. I welcome all our speakers, our panelists, and everyone else who's joined us today evening. So this webinar will be looking at how to optimize the treatment in patients of diabetic macular edema and neovascular AMD, and also look at the role of aflibercept, the undisputed role and the evolving role of aflibercept in the management of these conditions. So throughout this webinar, we'll be looking at ways on how to decrease the treatment burden of our patients, to increase the efficacy of the treatment, and we'll be seeing a few day-to-day scenarios, real-world scenarios that will be shared by our speakers. And in the end, we do hope that everyone takes away some practical pearls that they can utilize right from tomorrow in their day-to-day practice. And these practical pearls will be given to you in the background of various studies and various trials that have been carried out in this space. So with that, I once again welcome you all. And before we begin, I'd like to introduce our panel of our panelists and discussants that are there with us this evening. So we have two very eminent vitreoretina specialists. We have Dr. Jivitesh Singh. Dr. Jivitesh Singh is the director and vitreoretina consultant at the iconic Eye Center at Ludhiana. So warm welcome to you, Dr. Jivitesh. We also will be joined shortly by Dr. Veer Singh, who is a vitreoretina surgeon at the Sohan Singh Eye Hospital at Amritsar. So looking forward to all your inputs and perspectives at the end of the talks. We have two very dynamic, young, bright vitreoretina surgeons with us who will be giving us their perspectives on the management of DME and neovascular AMD. So our first speaker is Dr. Basudha Jaiswal. So Dr. Basudha did her VR fellowship from the MM Joshi Eye Hospital at Hubli. And then after that, she had a stint at the KD Eye Hospital and Om Prakash Eye Hospitals. Presently, Dr. Basudha works at the Chauhan Medicity Hospital at Pathankot. So welcome, Dr. Basudha, and we're looking forward to your talk. So our next speaker is Dr. Shivani, and Dr. Basudha will be speaking on the management of diabetic macular edema. Dr. Shivani is a retina consultant at the Dr. Om Prakash Eye Institute, Amritsar. Dr. Shivani completed a post-graduation from the Government Medical College, Amritsar, followed by a fellowship in vitreoretina, and now she's practicing in Amritsar. So welcome, Dr. Shivani, and she'll be speaking on neovascular AMD. So with that, I invite Dr. Basudha to please share your slides and tell us your perspectives on the management of DME with aflibercept. Dr. Basudha, we can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Okay. Yeah. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good evening, ma'am, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform. So today I'll be speaking on assessing the efficacy of Q16 aflibercept injection and its outcome in diabetic macular edema. So as we all know, the global burden of diabetes continued to rise from 463 million in 2019 to 700 million by 2045, and in which Africa peaks by 147% increase, followed by Middle East, North Africa, and Southeast Asia. So as the proportion of patients with diabetes increases, so is the problem. As we know that diabetic eye disease is the leading cause of vision loss among working age adults. As of 2020, it was estimated that 28 million people have diabetic macular edema, and it tends to increase to 2045 by approximately 44.82%. So, what is the most feared complication for patients with diabetes? In a US survey, 47% of respondents ranked visual loss as the condition that would most affect their day-to-day life. Loss of sight was ranked higher than loss of memory, limb, speech, or hearing. So, due to this, the global cost of diabetes is expected to increase substantially by 2030. So, what do we really achieve by treating these patients? We help them to improve their independence, productivity, and ability to perform their daily function. If a patient gains 1 line of vision, this helps the patient to read a newspaper and drive at night. If a patient improves by 2 lines, he may be able to perform his near vision task. And if he gains 3 lines, this will help to improve the color perception. So to address the demand of treatment, fixed dosing has been evolved. It has been divided into proactive and reactive. Proactive means it focuses on preventing the disease progression through a scheduled intervention. It is further divided into fixed dosing and treat and extend therapy. In fixed dosing, regular injections are given, which is not dependent on visual acuity or anatomic response. Treat and extend therapy. In this, the treatment is adjusted for each individual according to their visual acuity and anatomic response and duration of VEGF suppression. Injection is scheduled visit of visual acuity and anatomic status. PRN means pro re nata or as needed. In this, the disease is monitored regularly and treated according to visual acuity and anatomic criteria. Treat to target. In this, regular injection is given until the disease is stable, and then the disease is monitored and retreated according to the visual acuity or anatomic criteria. So there are multiple trials which have been done with aflibercept injection for treatment of diabetic macular edema. The first trial was VIVID and VISTA trial. This is a 3-year trial. In this, the injection aflibercept is compared against the normal treatment which we give for diabetic macular edema, that is the laser. As you have seen on this graph, there is a rapid increase in vision and then a plateau was maintained throughout for approximately 148 weeks. That is approximately 3 years. The next trial was the DRCR trial. This was a trial of a period of 2 years. In year 1, approximately 9 aflibercept injection was given, and in year 2, only 5 injections was required approximately. So this shows that the number of injections reduced in year 2, and this decreases the burden of treatment also. Next trial was an endurance trial. In this, the patient from VISTA was taken and was followed for 5 years. The patient was observed at 4, 8, and 12-week interval, depending on the disease stability. As we can see, 25% of patients required no treatment after 3 years, and 48% require very few injections, approximately 3.4. Next trial was a protocol T trial. In this, aflibercept was found to be superior against ranibizumab and bevacizumab, especially with baseline vision of less than 69 letters. So outcome over 2 years was seen. For patients with DME with worse visual acuity, aflibercept continues to exhibit greater visual benefit compared to bevacizumab at year 2. So international recommendation and guidelines were recommended for the first-line use of aflibercept injection, especially in patients with less than visual acuity of less than 20/40. They said that aflibercept is the drug of choice in DME with vision less than 69 letters. In patients with poor visual acuity, aflibercept may lead to a more rapid visual improvement. Superiority of aflibercept was noted in group of participants with worse baseline vision. Next trial was a VIOLET trial. This evaluated the long-term benefit of aflibercept patients with DME using different regimens. These trials were done on patients from the aqua group. The patients were randomized into 1:1:1 group. The first group was given fixed treatment. The second group was given treat and extended therapy. And the third group was given as needed treatment, that is the PRN therapy. The primary endpoint was the mean change in best corrected visual acuity from baseline to vision 52. So the Violet study showed that the vision gained in the pre-Violet phase were maintained in the long term with a reduced treatment burden in extended regimen group. So to conclude, vision gained in the initial phase was maintained for a long period of time overall across the all group. The treat and extended regimen offered similar outcome to that of the fixed regimen, but with fewer injection. So treat and extend regimen is highly effective dosing strategy. So this was shown in Violet group. Next trial was VIBM trial. This evaluated the outcome of a 2-year proactive treat and extend regimen with aflibercept for patients with DME. In this, aflibercept Q4 for 5 months, that is 1 monthly interval for 5 months was given, followed by individualized treat and extended therapy. The primary endpoint was mean change in best corrected visual acuity from baseline to week 104. So as you can see, the patient gained in first year was plus 9.1 ETDRS letter, and in year 2 it was plus 9.4 ETDRS letter from the baseline. Mean number of injection in year 1 was 8.5 and year 2 was 3.9 mean number of injections. So this showed that 57% of patients were on Q12 treatment at the end of year 2. Next trial was a Hirano et trial. It assessed the proactive individualized treat and extended therapy with aflibercept in patients with DME over 2 years. In this, the injection was given at Q4 interval for 5 months, followed by individualized treat and extend therapy. The primary endpoint was best corrected visual acuity from the baseline to year 2. As you can see, the mean change in visual acuity from baseline to year 1 was plus 6.1 ETDRS letter. The mean number of injection from baseline to year 2 was 11.4. So this showed that 66.7% of patients were on Q16 interval at the end of year 2. So J trial also evaluated the efficacy of proactive treat and extend regimen with aflibercept injection for diabetes macular edema. Aflibercept Q4 for 5 months followed by individualized treat and extend therapy. The primary endpoint was mean change in best corrected visual acuity from baseline. And here you can see that the number of injection at 52 weeks was 7.7. The disease stability reached at 20 weeks was 87%. And dry retina was approximately 51%. So in prospective clinical trial, majority of patients with DME achieved Q12 interval after 2 years of proactive treat and extend therapy with aflibercept injection. So to summarize, aflibercept can clinically meaningful vision gain or maintain vision regardless of the baseline vision and is the treatment of choice, particularly in patients with baseline less than 69 letters. It is the only bispecific VEGF fusion protein that is designed to trap VEGF and placental growth factor. Early intensive treatment followed by treat and extend regimen in DME can also maintain vision with reduced burden to patient and clinic. Early intensive treatment for DME may maximize the vision gain in first year, and these can be maintained in long term with a reduced treatment burden. Patient factor beyond baseline vision such as duration and control of diabetes can also have an impact on risk of vision loss in patients with DME. With proactive individualized dosing, patient can maintain a vision gain with a reduced treatment burden after year 1 with aflibercept. Overall, to summarize, early treatment with DME with good systemic control of diabetes and regular follow-up is the key main to maintain the vision for a long period of time. Emerging real-world studies of DME has shown that aflibercept leads to a good visual and anatomic outcome in the clinical practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Basudha, for very nicely highlighting the role of aflibercept in the management of diabetic macular edema. And, India has the dubious distinction of being the diabetic capital of the world. So I think every ophthalmologist, whether he's a retina specialist or a general ophthalmologist, would need to be conversant with the management strategies for this condition. Dr. Basudha, I request you to stop sharing a slide now. Yeah, so that we can move on to the discussion.
Yes.
Dr. Jivitesh, what would be your take on this management approach? First of all, I'd just like to highlight a few pertinent things from your talk that really went out for me. So, first was your one of your initial slides where you said even a one-line improvement can mean so much for the patient. It could improve his quality of life. So, even a five-letter improvement is something worth striving for us. Also, the slide where you showed that the number of injections in the second year would actually half. So this is something, a very good takeaway for everyone, on when they're counseling their patients, that you can tell them that if you're treated intensively and at the appropriate time in the first year, then your injection burden goes to almost half in the second year. And you also showed there were a substantial number of patients who did not require any injections at the end of the third year itself.
Yes.
The third thing that I would like to reiterate is the role of early intensive therapy. Like you said, hit the disease hard in the beginning itself so that you can, reap the gains later. So that is what we have to again tell our patients, that, intensive treatment in the first few months is very important, and the compliance of the patient has to be assured. And lastly, you spoke about the treat and extend regimen, which is a proactive way of treating the disease rather than the reactive way of PRN. And, I think a lot of retina specialists are now moving on to this. So with that, Dr. Jivitesh, what would be your take on this whole scenario of treating DME?
Ma'am, you already summarized all the important points. Like we need to have an early intensive treatment. We need to guide the patient and counsel him. Okay, let's not wait for the disease to bounce back. Let's at least give like 3 loading doses or at least 2 loading doses, and after that keep a close watch. But in Indian scenario, patients, if we have a dry macula or a very minimal edema, they don't insist on to getting the treatment done. But aflibercept has done one good thing, that they've slashed their prices now. So now I'm able to offer the patients, and the patients are also volunteering for this treatment. So this I would like to appreciate, because their earlier scheme, which they were giving like one with one, so because of the first cost itself, people were not opting. But
Right.
now the acceptance has increased. So I'm able to offer this good molecule, which has a like a much better what do you say, action than bevacizumab or ranizumab. What I feel so. So yeah. So like Dr. Basudha has summarized all points. She has summarized well, and this is my take. It's a good molecule. I'm using it now. I'm using it more often now after the price revision was done.
Right.
So that's it.
So, Dr. Jivitesh, like most of us are giving like 3 injections, maybe what we call
Yes,
the
ma'am.
loading dose. But
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Basudha, in most of the studies, you showed that the aflibercept was given at 5 doses were given every month. So, in your practice, what is the strategy that you follow? Do you give 5 loading doses, or do you give 3
No,
or
ma'am.
2?
I give only 3 loading doses.
3 loading doses.
Yeah.
So, I think Dr. Jivitesh, you do the same. And then
Yes, ma'am.
and then what is your protocol? See, I think the PRN
Hmm.
protocol is what we all were following, but then that again increases the hospital visits for the patient.
Practically, ma'am, I have seen whatever be the anti-VEGF. I just have one like a case, specific case to share with you. We started the patient on ranizumab, gave her Eylea also. There was some reduction, but after like 2, 3 anti-VEGF injections, the central macular thickness was close to 600. I just thought of giving one IVTA, so that also it worked like magic. So anti-VEGF they work, so I try to change if it is like, especially when it is a diabetic macular edema, like after 3 or 4 injections, maybe either it is Eylea or anything. So then I try to give this like steroid one chance, especially if the patient is pseudophakic. In my case, she was. So try to switch in between different class of drugs also. But I think Eylea is definitely better in DME and more specifically in CNVM cases or like the PCV cases. I think there it is my first choice. Then I insist the patient on getting, even if it is costlier, to get this injection. And most of them agree after understanding the pros and cons. So like
True.
that is my approach. Like after 3 or 4, if it is not working, then I try to like give steroid one chance, especially if pseudophakic. So
True.
that is it.
So, Dr. Vasudha, are there any biomarkers that you would look at? Like you talked about a Q16 extension with aflibercept. So, is there a certain subset of patients that you would be able to extend out to this interval? Do you look at the biomarkers before, deciding that which would be the patients that will do well with aflibercept and which one will not? Or is it just across the board that you follow
That,
this?
like Sir said, I start with ranibizumab only. The baseline treatment, I start with ranibizumab. If the patient doesn't respond, then I go for aflibercept injection after 2 doses. If the patient is not responding with 2 doses, then I switch to the other molecule and then see the change in the central thickness of the macula. If there is a change in central thickness, then I give the next 2 doses of aflibercept, that is the loading dose. And then give a space of 2 months in between and see how much the patient is responding and how much the reversal of the macular edema is coming back. If it is stabilized, then I treat and extend therapy. Like I try to maintain the central thickness of the macula and try to follow up the patient as much as longer I can do. Along with that, I tell the patient to please control the sugar and see their HbA1c is under control. That is the most important factor I have seen. Whose HbA1c is well controlled, his macular edema will be well controlled.
Definitely, you've highlighted a very
Can I
important.
ask one question
Yes.
to like all of you? Like if we have some chronic sorry, not disc edema, chronic macular edema with large cystic spaces, which we know like ranibizumab would be having tough time to like reduce it. Then is just out, although this talk is about Eylea and aflibercept, like is Ozurdex or IVTA your first line
I'm
of
using.
choice in those like large cystic cystoid edemas?
Yes.
Or okay,
So definitely, patients who have a chronic macular edema with very, very large cystoid spaces,
yes,
a
ma'am.
huge amount, 400, 500 microns, a lot of hyperreflective dots, which again
Mm-hmm.
signal that this is an inflammatory cascade that is at work. So those are the
Uh-huh.
patients that I would take for a first line or
Matlab, my approach is like first give maybe a good like something like Eylea, and maybe then the second injection itself can be a steroid.
Yes, that could be. So because these patients have also inflammatory mediators working
Hmm.
and they also have a huge VEGF load. So I think that is a
Yes,
good strategy.
yes,
First, you decrease the
yes.
VEGF load with Eylea and then you
Uh,
go ahead with the steroid. So that is also, or you
so
can do
like
it vice
although
versa because you would at
so
some
although we
point need
say
anti-VEGF action.
yeah, right. Okay.
So, Dr. Basudha, you said that your first line of treatment is ranibizumab, but like you showed us in Protocol T, there would be patients who have a good visual acuity, that is 6/9 parts. All the agents would work. But patients with a lower visual acuity, all the studies, including Protocol T, have very well shown us that out of all the agents, it was Eylea that was working the best.
Yeah.
So I think in patients with poorer visual acuity, we should start first line with Eylea, rather than the older anti-VEGF agents like
Yes, ma'am.
Mab or
Like
other.
rightly Sir said, ki now they
Yeah,
have reduced the price, so now we can use
yeah.
it little
I think in our Indian context, the price becomes the only challenge. Otherwise, I
challenge.
think we would definitely like to use this molecule.
Now my
Yeah.
acceptance has increased. Like now
Hmm.
people are saying okay because
Yes,
earlier when it used to cross the 60,000 mark,
exactly.
then straight no.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
the
Then like
patient
they
think that we are making money with it, and they say,
uh,
no, I don't want that injection.
yeah, true, true, true.
So it is very difficult to
Yeah.
convert the patient nowadays.
Yeah, but
And
nowadays with lot patients are also very aware since injections have become so
Mm.
commonplace. So now earlier a few years ago, patients you balk at the idea of an injection in their eye. But now I think most of them have heard from some friends or relatives, and they're more
Yeah,
accepting of these injections, and they're also pretty,
true.
aware of the cost factor that is involved.
In
So I think
last four
comes.
years only, I've seen some like now it is not a shock to them.
Hmm.
Like they have this gross idea.
Yeah. So I think it's important to tell them at the outset itself. So what is your strategy for counseling? Most of the patients that come to me from other referred, they've been told that ek injection lagayenge and it's going to work like a miracle.
Mm.
So I think at the outset, and that's when the patient gets really disappointed because he's expecting that one injection and it's going to work like
Yeah.
magic. And when you've given them one and they don't get that response, that's the time they get lost to follow up. So in the beginning itself, if you prime the patient that this more injections will be needed, and you include the patient in that partnership, what I tell them is that your blood vessels are like a leaking pipe, and water is coming out into your carpet. These injections are only going to soak up the water, but the pipe is going to keep on leaking. We can every time just dry up the water, and the leaky pipe can only be repaired by your blood pressure, blood sugar control only. So that's when the patient understands that, yes, why repeated injections are needed in this case.
Yes, true, ma'am. True.
Very true.
So I think we should prime the patient in the beginning itself, and not give him false hopes that one or two or three injections. We should tell them that it all depends on how your disease progresses.
3, I tell them. After that, I tell them
Yeah.
we'll see how
We'll
you
see.
respond.
Yeah.
So, like general priming, I do not for one. I say ki
Yes.
be ready for 3 injections. We'll
Yeah.
see how the
That
course
needs to be
runs.
how it goes. Yeah. If you tell them too much, also then they'll get alarmed. So
Yeah.
I think, with ILIA, we've been getting excellent results in DME. And along with that, systemic control has to be maintained. Again, we have to tell the patient that if we're going to give you intensive treatment in the beginning, then your chances of the disease, what happens is if you don't treat these patients intensively in the beginning, you lose out on that visual acuity gain because the edema might go off eventually if you're treating them with long intervals in between. The edema might eventually go off, but then you have photoreceptor loss. You lose the ellipsoid zone, and when the edema goes away, the vision may not improve commensurately. So early intensive therapy is something that we all have to emphasize to the patient, and we also have to work towards. So maybe giving 3 or 4 or 5 injections in the beginning, and then we can extend out the interval to Q8 or even to Q16, as Dr. Basudha told us in a number of studies. So we'll come back to the discussions after the second talk again. And with that, I now invite Dr. Shivani to present her talk on the management of neovascular AMD. And Dr. Shivani is a consultant at the Om Prakash Eye Institute at Amritsar. Again, a very dynamic and expert vitreoretina surgeon. So Dr. Shivani, I request you to please share your slides.
Good evening. I'll be talking on neovascular AMD, what the clinician should know. Thank you, Bear, for this opportunity. The world's population is approximately 8.2 billion people, and it is estimated that number of people with AMD is around 196 million, which is projected to increase at 288 million in 2040. So these estimates indicate the substantial global burden of AMD. So the symptoms of AMD are blurring of central vision, distortion of vision such as the straight lines appears bent, central scotoma, a general haziness in overall vision. Symptoms of AMD usually appear suddenly and worsen rapidly. The initial visual symptoms, the patient may feel blurring of vision, and when this worsen, the patient may see the central dark spot in the vision, and they have a profound effect on patients' quality of life. So the stages of AMD are early and intermediate AMD occurs when there is a buildup of waste material, which is drusen, under the retina. With early AMD, there are typically few to no changes in the central vision. With intermediate AMD, drusens are larger and may cause changes in central vision. So in intermediate AMD, we can see in this clinical picture, we can see the drusens, they are larger than early AMD, and on OCT, we can see these RPE bumps, and they may cause changes to the central vision. Then in late AMD, which can be of two types, one is dry and another is wet. Dry is atrophic, which is known as geographic atrophy. So in this picture, we can see this dark circle, which is highlighting the drusen's, as well as indicate there are patches in the retina, which are atrophic patches. So this is a case of dry AMD, whereas this thing is neovascular or wet AMD, which is the most aggressive form of AMD, often leading to rapid loss of central vision. In the OCT of neovascular AMD, we can see IRF, intraretinal fluid, subretinal fluid with PEDs. In FFA, we can see a leakage. So diagnosis of AMD is multifactorial. In early cases, we can first of all start with the vision by using standard eye charts. And then we can use Amsler grid, where we can see distortion of the lines, and also there is central scotoma. Then we examine the patient clinically. Then we have investigations like fluorescein angiography, which is an invasive investigation, OCT, and indocyanine green angiography. AMD management. So most important is the time. Time lost is vision lost. So the goal is to reduce treatment burden while maintaining vision gain. So timely treatment is essential. Early diagnosis is essential with referral as needed by improving the clinical efficiency, quick access to healthcare, enhanced communication between patients and healthcare professionals. If this is left untreated, permanent loss of vision can occur rapidly after the onset of symptoms. So what is the pathogenesis of wet AMD? So VEGF-A and placental growth factor act via VEGF receptors to promote vascular leakage and edema and inflammation and neovascularization. So VEGF-A acts via VEGF receptor 1 and VEGF receptor 2, whereas placental growth factor acts both directly via VEGF receptor 1 and indirectly via VEGF receptor 2 by displacing VEGF receptor A and VEGF receptor 2. So excessive activation of the receptors can result in increased vascular leakage, edema, and inflammation and neovascularization. So we have brolucizumab, which acts only on VEGF-A. Ranibizumab also acts on VEGF-A, but aflibercept acts on VEGF-A, VEGF-B, and placental growth factors. So even if VEGF-A is completely blocked, VEGF-B and placental growth factor would still be able to bind to the receptors and hence contribute to pathological effects. So these are the currently available and approved anti-VEGF agents: aflibercept, brolucizumab, ranibizumab, and faricimab. Out of these, aflibercept has the highest binding affinity with 9.1 to 11 T-half, which acts on 4 targets, whereas brolucizumab and ranibizumab acts only on 1 target. Faricimab acts on 2 targets, which is VEGF-A and angiopoietin. And aflibercept is has highest potency amongst all. Aflibercept is a choice of anti-VEGF in wet AMD. We will see random control trials and real-world evidences. There's a study which is Altair study, which is a multi-center randomized phase 4 study in treatment-naive patients with neovascular AMD. So they divided the patient into 2 treat and extend, 2 weeks treat and extend, and 4 weeks treat and extend. And they have seen by the end of 2 years, the injections required are 10.4, and the change in BCVA was very significant in both the groups. And the proportion of patients which reached at Q16 intervals, that is 4 months, by the end of 2 years were around 50%. That is 46.3% of the patients required 1 injection after 4 months. So mean change in BCVA from baseline at 52 weeks, that is 1 year, was maintained at the end of 2 years with less than 4 injections in year 2 in both the treatment groups. In Altair, up to 96.2% of the patients extended to Q16, and they maintained this interval by the end of 2 years with aflibercept. So there was another study done, which was extension after 2 years, which was View 1 study. Vision gains maintained for approximately 4 years with continued dosing as per study protocol. Then there was another study, which was RAIN study, which is a follow-up study of View 1 extension. They have said that vision gains with the aflibercept maintained through 5 years. And there was another study for FRB registry which showed that treat and extend achieved good visual acuity gains with a reduction in treatment burden in the second year. So mean number of injection over 2 years were 13.6 with significant gain in the visual acuity by the end of 2 years. So by end of 2 years, 24% of the eyes were being treated at an interval of 12 weeks and beyond. Another study from Moorfields also demonstrated that vision gains achieved with aflibercept at Q8 in year 1 were maintained in the long term to year 4 with continued treat and extend dosing. And by month 24, that is after 2 years, 52% of eyes were being treated at an interval of 12 weeks and beyond. Another study by Jaggi and et al., they said that proactive treat and extend with aflibercept led to long-term maintenance of vision gain, even in the absence of initial loading phase. So by year 4, the median injection interval was 11 weeks, and 35% of the patient met the exit criteria and terminated therapy after 2 years. So, real world patients with neovascular AMD can achieve outcomes which were comparable to those with the trials with aflibercept. Aflibercept is a choice of anti-VEGF in PCV. So, although not common globally, PCV is more prevalent across patient populations than previously thought. So, 22.3% to 61.6% Asians are diagnosed with PCV. And PCV may be underdiagnosed in Caucasian populations by up to twofold or more. There was this study, Planet Study, which is a prospective multi-center randomized clinical study in PCV across 62 centers. In this, 3 initial monthly doses of aflibercept 2 mg were given, and then the patients were randomized into one group was only aflibercept and another group was aflibercept with active PDT. So by the end of 1 year, primary endpoint was seen, which was change in BCVA and from baseline and safety outcomes. And by the year 2 was the endpoint of the study. So we could see that aflibercept monotherapy resulted in vision gains of more than 10 letters from baseline at year 1. And this aflibercept monotherapy for the treatment of PCV demonstrated visual acuity gains were maintained to 2 years. In both the treatment arms, more than 80% of the patients showed no evidence of active polyps at week 1 or week 2. Across clinical trials and clinical practice, proactive aflibercept monotherapy achieves clinically meaningful vision gains in patients with PCV. Complete polyp regression have been observed across clinical trials and real-world case series with the aflibercept in PCV. Like if we compared Planet and Vault aflibercept monotherapy Japanese case series, so there was complete regression with aflibercept monotherapy. Ocular safety with anti-VEGF agents, IOI and retinal vasculitis with or without occlusion. So in brolucizumab, it is confirmed safety signal of retinal vasculitis and or retinal vascular occlusion, typically in the presence of IOI. Faricimab, low reported rates of IOI and retinal vasculitis in clinical practice. Aflibercept also has low rated rates of IOI and retinal vasculitis in clinical practice. So aflibercept 2 milligrams efficacy and safety profile has been established across RCTs and is supported by over a decade of real-world monitoring. More than 20,000 patients from more than 20 countries are treated in real-world studies, and more than 62 million doses are sold since launch. More than 9 million patient years of exposure, and it is approved in a total of 7 indications globally, like BRVO, CRVO, DME, myopic CNV, neovascular AMD, ROP, and neovascular glaucoma. And the rate of IOI is 1 in 10,000 units, and rate of end-off is 0.6 in 10,000 units. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani, for giving us a walkthrough through all those important and landmark clinical trials. And with that, we move on to our panelists. So, Dr. Jivitesh, what would be your inputs on this? Any perspectives on the management of AMD with aflibercept? Would that be your first line treatment, or would there be certain cases? You're muted, Dr.
Hello. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. I was saying definitely. This is always like my first choice. With another molecule like with especially with the brolucizumab, I had some IOIs in my clinical setting, so I am little like reluctant in giving that molecule till date. Although I'm more so aflibercept, I think it's a good safe molecule. It acts on both VEGF-A, even the placental growth factors. Although as compared to ranibizumab, which covers only VEGF-A, so I think it has a good drying effect as compared to ranibizumab, and like a better and a longer drying effect as compared to ranibizumab. So it is always my first choice. Only if the patient is like non-affording, then I say okay, we can start the treatment with ranibizumab. So yes, that's it.
So I think for me also, I think aflibercept ticks all the box. It's become now affordable
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
compare it to the other
Yes,
anti-VEGFs.
ma'am.
It is extremely safe. I've never encountered any IOI with
Mm-hmm.
aflibercept. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
it is durable. You can extend the treatment interval. Dr. Shivani showed us in the Altair trial that there was such a amount, 96% patients could be extended to Q16 intervals at the end of 2 years. So that is
Yes, ma'am.
very, very encouraging figure. So it gives us efficacy, it gives us durability, it's safe, and now it's also relatively affordable. So I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
all the box, and I think for me also, aflibercept is my favorite first line treatment for the management of NAMD. Another takeaway from Dr. Shivani from your talk was the incidence of PCV. So I think we all agree that
Mm.
PCV in the Southeast Asia, the Asian population as a whole, and especially in India, is pretty high. So, though we do not
Yes,
diagnose it
ma'am.
all that often because maybe sometimes
Mm.
we do ICG, but so many studies have shown that at least 40 to 50% of the patients would be having PCV. And PCV is something that is extremely difficult to treat with the other first generation anti-VEGFs, and this is where, in fact, aflibercept was one of the first agents that showed such a good and remarkable efficacy in the patients of PCV. So, like you showed in your slides, there would be a subset of patients, ranging from 60 to 80%, who would have a complete regression of the polyps, inactivation, and then a complete regression of the polyps. So these polyps would disappear and never be active again. So in that sense, aflibercept gives us a finite treatment. And again, you showed us how the treatment burdens goes down over the years, from 9 injections to 4 to 5 injections, and then so on. So it really goes down substantially, and there would be a subset of patients that exited this, study. So AMD is something there
Yes.
where getting a finite treatment is really very difficult because it just goes on and on and on, the injection burden. So this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
one agent that gives us, a chance at giving a finite treatment to the patient. Dr.
True.
Shivani, anything that else you would like to highlight from your practice on how you manage these patients?
Yes, earlier I was using Resumab because of the cost, but now I have shifted to Aflibercept as a first choice, and it works really good. One of my case had IOI with Brolucizumab, so I've stopped using this drug. So I am more into Eylea nowadays.
Yes. So again, in AMD, like in DME, it's a more forgiving disease. You can use maybe a weaker anti-VEGF. You can maybe the patient sometimes drop out, but AMD, you have to be very aggressive. You have to give the patient, the best possible anti-VEGF at the first go itself, because DME, you can have edema, and the patient wants
Mm.
a little more
True.
forgiving disease. It's not
Yes,
affecting
ma'am.
the photoreceptors directly. But with AMD, you cannot afford to lose time. Like you mentioned in your first slide itself, you said time lost is vision lost. So at AMD, you cannot afford to lose any time, and you have to hit the disease very hard, in the early stages itself with the best molecule that you have. So in today's time, I think, like I said, balancing out all the anti-VEGFs, seeing the efficacy, durability, cost. I think out of all the anti-VEGFs that are there in present scenario, I think Eylea stands out the best, giving us all these things.
You rightly said, ma'am. It is ticking all the boxes.
Yes.
Safety, efficacy, like everything. Now it is little in like patients. A patient can afford it also. Like a lot more patients think it is affordable.
Right. So what is again in AMD, just to go back, what is your treatment strategy, Dr. Jivitesh? How do you, treat these patients?
Ma'am, same ma'am. Three loading doses. Like then it becomes more or less a PRN treatment. Although I don't want to follow that approach. Uh, I would like to give at least 4 injections, but obviously when the patient says I am seeing better, when we see some changes,
Right.
there is improvement in visual acuity, then we also have to go with the tune of the patient himself.
Exactly.
But definitely, if we give like three loading doses or maybe one additional fourth one, I think it gives a very good control over the disease. It doesn't get very violent in its course. So that is my basic approach.
Right. Dr. Basudha, would you like to chip in with your approach to this? Anything you would like to add?
I'll go with Dr. Jivitesh. I also do the same.
And Dr. Shivani?
Same.
Same.
This
I think,
patient profile is similar, so I think PRN is more
yeah.
here.
In
So we
Indian
would all
setting,
like,
ma'am, the mentality is PRN only.
Yes,
In
yes.
general life itself,
you know,
it's not very so. ठीक है.
yeah. So we would like to do treat and extend since it's more proactive, but I think in our scenario, patients get lost to follow up. They don't come
Yes, ma'am.
when we call them, and they just
Yes.
land up, whenever they feel. And I think for most of us, then end up switching to the PRN strategy. But
During the
again,
loading dose treatment, also they are very skeptical. Is it working? Then you have to show them all the OCTs. Yes, it is working. It is coming down. So they are very skeptical, and they want very good results. If you're giving a good molecule, they expect
yeah,
wonders.
wonders.
So that is also a part of counseling. You have to like
Yeah. I
really.
think counseling in the very first go itself, you tell them that. So there'll be many times patients whose vision improves with aflibercept, but the
Mhm.
anatomy, may be a little slow to come. And patients, even after one injection, may show an improvement in vision. But when you see the
Yes.
OCT, it may not show that great. But then after 2, 3 injections, that's when the anatomy also starts improving.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
again, I think counseling is very, very important. You have to tell the patients right
True.
at the beginning itself. And we also have to emphasize the role of compliance and proper visits, at the right
Very
time.
true. Very
So,
true. This visit
yeah,
part is also important.
yeah. So they think that kabhi bhi aa jayenge. You have to
हाँ जी,
emphasize
true.
the diseases, especially
Hmm.
for AMD. And I think taking a picture and showing them on the OCT itself, that really helps, So
It helps.
take a picture, show them all those yellow
Although
spots.
their vision is not improving, you show that there is some reduction in edema, they're
Yes,
happy.
they are
Yes.
happy.
That we gave something, chalo,
Yeah,
even if it is anatomical, the doctor is showing, the doctor is satisfied, so we are also satisfied.
exactly.
So it's like a course of their treatment.
Yeah. I think most of the times patients learn themselves how to look at the OCT
Yes.
and then they'll say, yeah, it's come down
Yes,
when it's
yes,
matters.
yes,
My PED has gone down. So I think
yes,
it's best to involve the patient in all this. More
yes,
involved
ma'am.
patients would always, equal a
Yes,
more.
ma'am. A more involved patient will follow your treatment protocol in a much better way, I think.
Yeah, so there are patients who say, "आप doctor हो, आप जानो, हमें नहीं जानना, आप करो जो करना है." But then I always tell them, if you don't know your disease, it is never going to get okay. You have to
Yeah.
get
True,
know
ma'am. True,
about
true,
it,
true.
and you
Yeah,
have to get involved in
very true.
knowing about it.
True, ma'am.
Especially for diabetics again, showing them the fundus picture, showing them even those small microaneurysms or that single hemorrhage in their retina. When you take a picture and show it to them, then they
Yes, yes.
exactly understand,
Yes, yes, yes.
how it is. So
True, ma'am. True.
it's very important to take at least a fundus photo and OCT, of course, and then show them all these changes. So, anything else that you would like to talk about, Dr. Jivitesh, as regards
No, ma'am,
to?
I think we covered a lot of good points today.
Yeah. And Dr. Shivani, Dr. Basudha, anything?
No, ma'am. Everything is covered, I think.
Okay.
Ma'am,
It
do
was
you
a
have
good
any
message.
experience with these? There's like I heard some companies like biosimilar coming for aflibercept. Although I've already heard the reports of IOIs So
Yes.
just
So they
any
have.
comment you have on that?
So I have
I have
personally.
used,
Yeah, tell me. Yeah, Dr. Vasudha, go ahead. Yeah,
yeah,
so
I have used
wanted
one
to-
biosimilar and I got an IOI in my first case only.
Oh my.
Oh, is it?
God, that's
How bad it was?
Yeah. It was not bad. It was like it resolved in 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
You
But it
had like
was,
proper fibrin reaction?
no, I had
Cells?
vitritis. Yeah,
Vitritis?
cells, vitritis.
Okay.
Okay.
The
Okay.
patient
Okay.
typically
Okay. Okay.
complained, I have floaters. I said,
Uh,
okay,
uh,
let's
uh.
call it and see. And
So this you answered my question very well. Not going to consider it.
Yes. I think till the time they come out with a better system, in the beginning, all these biosimilars do have a lot of reaction. I personally do not have any experience. But yeah, I think we should hold our hands now that so many
Okay.
reports have been coming in about a lot of
I
these
just
adverse.
wanted to ask if some like
Yeah.
Dr. Basudha shared her experience. Good to know.
Yeah.
So I was already reluctant. Now, like I'm like very sure
Yes.
that I don't want to advise this to anyone.
Definitely.
It's a difference of small amount actually. So safety is
yeah,
much more important.
Safety is there. Safety is the number one thing that, so that has to be taken care of. Definitely. And I think ILIA has been there. Confidence has really built up with ILIA. It's been there for so many years now. So I think that is the molecule to go forward with. And, the cost wise, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not,
Yes.
it's not
Now it
really
has
that
become decent.
expensive. Yeah. So
Right.
it is pretty affordable. And seeing the kind of efficacy that you're ordering, you can increase the treatment interval to at least
Hmm.
8 to 12 weeks in most cases, and then even to 16 weeks in a certain subset of patients. I think ultimately, the cost evens out when you're
Very
giving that.
true. Very true.
So I think we've had a very good discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we all do agree that IDEA is one of the most effective and safe molecules to be used in diabetic macular edema. Let me just check the chat box in case there are any questions there. We just have a lot of appreciation comments. Okay. Yeah. So again, before we end, I would just like to highlight the role of systemic control in diabetics. That is again very important for any of our injections to work. So you have to tell the patient to monitor their blood sugar. You know what? Most of the patients monitor their fasting sugar and they're very happy that my sugar is fine. When you ask them to do a PP, or especially if they've come in on the day of the injection and you check their, sugar after the breakfast, it's really high. So you have to tell them to check even their postprandial sugar, that is 2 hours after their meals. Again, anemia is one factor that you have to look at, because if a patient is anemic, then again the edema is not going to go down. And then nephropathy, hypertension, lipid control, all these things have to again go hand in hand. So I see a lot of prescriptions where the patient has just been advised the injection. There's been no other, counseling of the patient regarding the systemic condition. So you have to educate the patient about the systemic control. That's very important. And now with these GLP-1 inhibitors coming in, Ozempic and all, again, we have to see that, because there have been reports that it could worsen the retinopathy. So you have to see what anti-diabetic medicine the patient is on. So like again, earlier glitazones were, patients on pioglitazones, they were the ones where the edema went up and was not responding to injections. So again, now with this Ozempic, the retinopathy could worsen when the patient starts these GLP-1 inhibitors. So again, just see what anti-diabetic medicines the patient is on. And again, also we know that an uncontrolled diabetic, when he's been started on insulin, again, the edema may momentarily worsen. So go into the treatment that the patient is on and spend some time, and then you'll get a more well-rounded picture, and it will help you to manage the diabetic patients much better. So thank you so much. I think it's been a wonderful discussion. It's been great listening to Dr. Basudha and Dr. Shivani's, a very complete presentation where they highlighted all the studies. And Dr. Jivitesh, it's been great having you as a discussant. I think thanks to Bear for having arranged this webinar, and it's been my pleasure to be a part of it. Good night, everyone, and thanks to everyone who was there listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, respected doctors, for taking out your valuable time, that too on a Saturday evening. And your active participation is a motivation for us to conduct these kind of meetings more often. Good night, sir. Good night, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone. Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye.
Okay, we are ending the meeting.